All right, let me do a quick agenda and quick round of introductions, then we're going to get the conversation started. Now, this is a little untraditional for us. Normally, when we do a webinar, we're showing the screen and a sort of a PowerPoint presentation. So I like changing it up. This is going to be a discussion with a great panel. So that said, the real discussion today is really, we're going to dig into how to sell custom branded face masks. And we're going to do this from two different perspectives. So I've invited Scott Cregan, who's an InkSoft customer and who has a long history of selling decorated apparel and promotional items as a business. And of course, Craig Mertens, who is the founder of Digital Art Solutions, and he's going to represent the perspective of manufacturing and design contemplations and considerations with custom face masks. So with that said, let me introduce my two other colleagues here. I'm joined by Zach and Jen on the InkSoft marketing team. They're going to help participate in guiding today's discussion. So let's do this. Scott, I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'm going to have you do a quick sort of Reader's Digest bio, just sort of introduce yourself, tell us about your background, and then we'll pass it to Craig to do the same.
Cool. Okay. Well, thanks for having me. My name's Scott Cregan. I'm the president of Graphic Connection. We're a screen printing embroidery company located in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And our company is pretty much like everyone else out there that does what we do. We do screen printing, embroidery, promotional products. And then in 2020, we got into the mask business, which I've never had done any mask business before. So that's my overview.
Awesome. And Craig, give us your Reader's Digest. Tell us about Craig Mertens.
All right. According to LinkedIn, this is my 25th year anniversary with Digital Art Solutions. As time flies when you're actively engaged in a business for 25 years. So my background is I was a manufacturer's rep for about 10 years before getting involved in this business, which was started by my father. Our goal for the last 30 years of business has been helping people to manage their graphics, their efficiencies, and more recently, we've really focused on becoming the partners with our clients in terms of the entire graphic side and sales side of their business. So we do that through technology, stock artwork, training. We have a wonderful support program. We are a sister company to InkSoft. We work very closely with the InkSoft team. In fact, our customer service and account management team is managed jointly by the InkSoft management team. So we are very ingrained with InkSoft. So I will pass it off to, looks like Zach, you're next.
Hey everyone, my name is Zach. I'm the marketing manager here at InkSoft, and I have a little bit of a crazy story, and so a crooked path, and so I won't go too into it. I've been here in the Tempe, Scottsdale area for a little over 6 months now, which is kind of crazy. Was previously in Los Angeles. And I've been with InkSoft for the last few months, just around early November or so. Super excited to be here and really, really just interested in getting to learn more about the industry and, of course, about our amazing customers.
All right, Jen, we're going to hand it to you. Oh, wait, wrong way. Wait.
No, that's the right way. Hi, I'm Jen. I'm the social media coordinator here at InkSoft, and I work directly with JP and Zach on the marketing team. I myself also just moved to Arizona in August from Los Angeles. So I'm really excited to be here, and I'm new to the team, just joined in January. So yeah, really excited to be part of this webinar today.
Great. All right. Well, thanks for the introduction. Let's get into the discussion. These are likely the questions that our audience wants to know. And again, we're going to free it up at the end for some Q&A. So I'm going to start with the first question. This one's directed at Craig. So I guess order of operations here, before we can talk about selling a custom branded face mask, we must understand sort of the design nuance and the things that we need to consider. If we're going to sell custom branded face masks, how can they be decorated? How can they be manufactured? What are my options? So that's a multi-part question, Craig, but lay out your best wisdom as it relates to design and sourcing and manufacturing.
So I've got a fair amount of experience in this area because I don't know the direct responsibility, but probably into the millions in terms of masks that have been produced by our customers since the pandemic began. And when this is all new territory, when we started working on graphics for masks, nobody had really done this before. And I think the default position for most companies was, hey, we're going to take a cotton mask. We are going to put a logo on the left cheek of that mask. We're going to keep it pretty simple. Folks originally started doing a lot of screen printing was kind of the original process. Then we saw it morph towards getting heat transfers manufactured in bulk, doing those pressing, and then it evolved into sublimation. And when it evolved into sublimation, we all of a sudden were presented with this incredible canvas for design, because with sublimation you can go edge to edge. And so the graphic side of it is really going to be dependent on your imprinting process. So every major manufacturer of wholesale blanks, or the companies that do the actual manufacturing, is going to have a template. And that template will be to scale, and it will be your image area minus what we call a bleed. A bleed is an overlap. And so in the context of a sublimation design, we need to make the design slightly larger and accommodate the graphic so it bleeds over the ribbing or the trim of the mask itself. There's two basic manufacturing processes on the sublimation side. One would be cut and sew, where they would print blocks, and then they would sew that mask with a colored trim around the perimeter of it. And then the other manufacturing process is full bleed, where you'd have a completely built mask. You'd make the transfer slightly larger, and it would actually bleed the graphic onto the trim. That's a really cool way to do masks. And in fact, JP, did you know that masks were, our sublimation printers were sold out for 6 weeks this summer because of masks? You could not get a printer.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. So basically you're working on a template, you're designing around a shell. I would say in terms of the graphical trends that we're seeing right now, we're seeing the trend towards the patterns. So, you are doing a patriotic theme, you might have a flag pattern behind it and the logo incorporated into that. The other thing we're seeing, which is interesting with sublimation, at a client, they said, can I get that mask in navy blue? And I said, you're in sublimation, print the navy and then do the logo in whatever colors you want. And they're like, I never thought of that. I got a white mask, I can print the navy. So, those are some of the considerations. We have seen people do embroidery with masks, interesting enough.
Huh.
We'll see that as like a little tiny little cheek print. Typically, I've seen rhinestones on. I've seen a lot of rhinestones on masks. Rhinestones on masks are rather interesting. So I suppose if you're in that bling community and you want a mask with stones, and you were going a night out on the town in your ball gown or whatever, having a blinged out mask might be interesting. See that a lot in the wedding side of things as well. So
Makes sense.
Anything else you wanted me to elaborate on that topic, JP?
Yeah, maybe let's go one level deeper, and this is actually a question for both Scott and Craig. I'll let you both share your perspective on it. How do you look at making the decision to decorate in-house versus take advantage of what I think is some excess supply chain right now, and leaning on a wholesale manufacturer to do all the decoration and even potentially blind drop ship? So is there any sort of guiding principles that you use, Scott, when you're selling face masks, or Craig, that you've heard from customers?
Craig, you want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Okay. Yeah. So kind of when the pandemic hit, we'd never printed a mask before. I never did sublimation before, never embroidered on a mask. Every mask is different too, because like we're getting masks with creases down the middle. So we had to figure out how to print on a, crease mask, and different sizes, because some were wider and some were smaller. But
right.
as Craig was, talking about how, the printing, the sublimation, the transfer, what we did right off the bat was we started offering one color transfers, and some of the manufacturers actually started producing, and Craig could talk about this too, because I know he's messed around with them, but they actually created an attachment for your press, so you can actually screen print on the press. We found out that was, we're not going to do that. We're not going to invest the money. So basically, to answer your question, what we did here is we did all of our own one color transfers here in house. So if we got a job for 100 pieces, our minimum was 50 pieces. So a lot of our clients like that. And as that's always a problem in our industry is minimums, because we did have people come and say, can you make 6 masks for me? And we just weren't going to do that.
Sure.
Anything that was multicolor, we outsourced to one of our transfer suppliers, and they were needing business too. So they were cranking out multicolor transfers for us. So we now have in our warehouse a huge amount of extra transfers here for masks that we bought over the past year. So one colors we would do in house, transfers we print our own, make them. And the transfers that we would get from our suppliers were multicolor. And then we were doing our own embroidery here and outsourcing our sublimation.
Got it. Greg, what's your view on making that decision between outsource or produce in-house?
I think you have to do both. And, I had a client at a 35,000 piece order for a school district. So obviously doing that in-house wasn't going to be realistic for them. And so they partnered with a mask manufacturer and printer to do all of the production. And that particular vendor was Cut and Sew. So for them, it was a pretty straightforward deal. Got it out in a 2-week turn, which is remarkable to me. But I think 100 pieces is kind of probably 50 to 100 pieces is probably the cutoff, where it's going to maybe at that point make more sense to maybe go with a sublimated mask that's full print. You can offer your client a little bit more dynamic type of a graphic on that product. But the other thing we're seeing is mass personalization. That was funny. I was talking to a client of mine in California, and he goes, "I hate doing masks. I hate them. Hate doing masks." He says, "But I just can't stop. I can't quit them. I'm doing masks all the time, but I do these medical offices and they want to have the names of the people in the office on the masks. And so he uses vinyl cutter and they personalize the names because they might have the mask lying around in the office and they want to know whose it is, or they work with a laundry service. So the laundry service is, doing all their scrubs. So they throw the masks in there. So, on this mass personalization, if you have a direct to garment printer per se, or sublimation or vinyl cutter, I think that's a really nice market position. You'd upsell for that. And I talked to him last week. He's still doing masks. I says, "I can't shut the spigot down. They just keep coming." I go, "Well, it's your fault. You promoted it. So there you go. Are you making money?" He goes, "Yeah, hand over fist." So there you go.
Interesting problem to have, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, let's dig into what I think are some of the sales opportunities and sales nuance and techniques. So I'm going to pass it to Jen to ask a question to kind of give some context as it relates to sales.
Yeah, Craig, actually, could you share maybe your top 3 tips on, for selling face masks?
Number one, you have to let people know that you do them. And it was fascinating. I talked to a client of mine, and she was in a part of the country that was pretty shut down. And she was saying, "I got shut down for this, the whole COVID thing, and our retail hasn't been open, And I said, "Do you do masks?" She goes, "Nah, I didn't really get into the mask thing." And I was like, "If you made masks, you could have stayed open." And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, you're an essential business." And so letting people know that you offer masks, I think, is the most important thing you can do. And you can certainly do that via your social media presence. You can certainly do that by a simple little blast email to your clients, and also a sampling program. If that school district order I was telling you about, that was all a result of a sampling program. The client took the initiative to produce a few samples, sent them into the school. The school district was going to do just one logo for the entire district. And they said, "Hey, listen, we can do, this whole job for you, but we can individualize each school." So, kind of that mass personalization aspect of it, I think is really important. Sampling, critical. One of the things that we've been teaching our clients to do, if you want to see a wonderful website that has an implementation of masks into their website, I would suggest checking out bmtpromotions.com. That's one of our clients. The first thing you see on their website when you hit them is, "Hey, looking for custom masks?" Click on a link. They have our catalog from our Mask Builder graphics collection. The client can flip through that, and then there's a lead collection form, and they get leads on that every day. So I think being able to engage the client, that's saying, "Hey, we're not just doing a logo on stuff or a logo on a mask, that we can do a whole graphics program for you with a mask, something that's more interesting." I think that's a really good tip. And then my last tip is identify the areas within your marketplace where people are wearing masks. So think about it like this. You're not getting into, I talked to a high school wrestling coach last week, and he was saying our kids are actually wearing masks during the wrestling matches. I was like, "How's that working out?" He said, "For about 30 seconds until it gets torn off." But he said, "You're not getting into the facility without a mask on." And so what better way than to run an online fundraising program, maybe with your InkSoft platform, feature custom logoed masks with a really interesting graphic, full sublimation, and use that as a fundraising program. And so identifying the marketplaces. So schools, team sports. I hear clients all the time say, "Hey, my school's shut down. We're on online learning, and our teams aren't playing." But that doesn't diminish the enthusiasm for the student athlete or the organization. to purchase product, and masks are certainly a part of that. So, and then, at other areas, beauty salons, they're wearing masks. Military base, everybody's wearing masks. Dental offices, they're wearing masks. Mardi Gras is going to be kicking here in New Orleans here in a little bit. Guess what? They're going to go forward with it. They're all going to be wearing masks, Mardi Gras masks. So identifying areas where people are wearing masks and sampling into those areas and using your social media, e-blasting, and your e-commerce to promote it. That's all I got.
That's great. Well, Cregan, let's have you address the same question, if you don't mind. What's been your experience in selling custom face masks? Like, any tips to share with the audience today?
Yeah. So real quick, we were just like everyone else out there, and I talked to shops all over the country. I just talked to a guy in Northern California yesterday about this. But, when the pandemic hit, we were sitting around our meeting room, which I'm in right now. We were like, what are we going to do? And no one really had masks at the time. So we really had to find some suppliers really quick, which we did. And for me in my state, I actually had to write a letter to our governor's office for them to deem us an essential business, which they were like ecstatic about us doing this. And and I have the letter. It was like really cool because I had to go to them because the cops were driving around and closing people down.
Wow.
So when the pandemic hit, we had to pivot quickly, just like everyone else did. And in the 1 year, we just did the numbers. We actually sold over $1 million in masks. So it helped us out a tremendous amount. So, and, get to the sales piece. If you think about it, the branding on a mask is actually on someone's face, and it's actually even more visible than a t-shirt, which is what we usually do. So, we were pitching our customers and potential customers that, hey, you could put your logo on this mask and here's how we're going to do it. We were once again competing with all the big companies. And, once I went into Target one day and I saw the Bella mask sitting up on the shelf, I was like, wow, this is like big. But for our industry to kind of be at the forefront of getting out there and decorating the masks was like a big deal. And we sold them to schools, and we sold them to, like Craig was saying, the military bases, and the fire department here in Bernalillo County. Once he found out we had them, our first order was 3,500 masks, and I was like, wow, we're onto something. So like I said, we were putting logos on masks, so people were taking their advertising budgets and using that as a platform to get masks on their people, to protect them, to promote their company. We actually did a couple InkSoft stores, and I like telling this story because if I didn't have InkSoft, we did a hospital down in Florida that they contacted us, and there's probably 5,000 printers or 10,000 printers in between Albuquerque and Florida that could have done that job. But we sampled, like Craig said, we set up an online store for them, and we moved a lot of masks for them. And we also did a store for a nonprofit company in Georgia. And then we just did a church in Boston. So if I didn't have InkSoft and I wasn't able to use that platform to get their product online through InkSoft, I wouldn't have been selling those customers. So does that answer all your questions?
That's good. Yeah.
Well,
I'll pass it to you for the next question. What do you think our audience needs to know?
Yeah, well, I actually want to follow up on that because, can you kind of like go a little bit deeper into exactly like how you pitched and presented branded face masks for those particular clients? Obviously, there must have been something more than just here's a branded face mask.
Yeah. Well, the most important thing that I tell people that I talk to is you have to have confidence when you go in and sell it. And to be honest with you, I didn't go into any of my meetings and say, hey, by the way, 3 weeks ago, I've never even sold a mask, so I don't even know anything about it. So really quick, you found out the single ply masks that came out really quick that everyone was able to get, which we were one of the first ones. They were literally being flown in from Honduras and drop shipped here in Albuquerque. It was crazy. Then the CDC came out and said, it has to be a 2-ply mask. Well, now we're sitting on a bunch of inventory of single ply masks that I'm trying to quickly dump, that I bought a bunch and get rid of those. But then I think during this pandemic, I really don't think everyone knew what was going on. So I didn't know what was going on much either. But if you go into your customers and you tell them you don't know what's going on, And I wasn't selling them snake oil. I went right to the 2 and 3 ply masks, and we found a really good mask from a supplier that I know in Boston. And then we also partnered up with someone on the left coast, which out of LA, and started using them. And we were able to go out and, and here's the thing I told my sales guys. I was keeping track at one time, and I need to go back, and I wanted to do this last night and I didn't, but we did business with 330 people that we never had done business with before. And so when we were doing work with them, we were like, hey, here's your, like, we were doing all the assisted living facilities in New Mexico because at one time they couldn't get these face coverings. So guess what we were doing? We were going in a weird time, and we weren't really meeting with a lot of them. We were doing it online or Zoom meetings, and but now they have our cards, they have our catalogs, and guess what? They're starting to place orders with us for other stuff outside of masks. So masks for us were a marketing way for us to get open. We were the only print shop in the state of New Mexico to get open at the time. So we were pitching all those things. It opened up new doors for us. It helped us with our current customers that we had, and we put masks on. Like I said, we did over $1 million in sales just in masks this last year.
Yeah, I'd like to add something to that too. Scott, you really hit on it. It was a way for you to stay engaged with your clients, but it also was a way to open new doors with clients that will be people you'll have longer term relationships well after the pandemic. And what we've seen with a lot of our clients is they'll do a complementary product line. So like you mentioned the care facilities or a national chain of care homes. We have clients that would do a mask program with them, but then they would do a reward shirt for the employees, like a heroes type of shirt or theme. Right. And these kind of programs, they kind of become self-fulfilling in a sense, but nobody knows that you can offer that unless you go to them. And so these facilities, this one client of ours was doing, they never even thought about it. He just approached them and says, hey, we did this program for XYZ company, and it was a kind of a thank you shirt for all your essential healthcare workers, and here's some designs. And he mocked up a few designs, and boom, he had a 3,500 piece order, which is nothing to shake a stick at, right? So I'm really glad that you mentioned that it leads to other things, and it also creates some continuity with your clients well after the pandemic, which I think is really one of the greatest values of doing masks, honestly.
I think Jen and Zach can probably testify, from the InkSoft perspective, we've seen a lot of InkSoft customers think in terms of a face mask as like the perfect complementary one more sell opportunity. So if we're doing a community fundraising store, something for a school or an organization, maybe the focus has always been on t-shirts and other goods, but adding a face mask to that store is the perfect vehicle to offer up another $10 sales opportunity. So we've seen a lot of organic and natural success. You're not prioritizing face masks, just making them available in context of current sales opportunities. Where are we in our discussion? I don't want to cannibalize. I'm good at cannibalizing the conversation, so I'm gonna pass it back to Jen to ask the next guiding question here to keep us moving forward.
Craig, can you actually kind of go into what tools Digital Art Solutions provides that help design face masks?
Sure. Do you want me to do a quick screen share? That might be the most effective way to do it real quick. Okay, let's do that. Let's see here. Hopefully you can see my little outline here. So what I just landed on, let's see here, is that the wrong, it looks like that's the wrong screen there, or maybe not. Can you guys see the mask builder screen right now? Okay, yeah. So when the whole face mask thing started hitting, my initial inclination was, how are people going to decorate these masks? And if you guys remember, when we first, got hit by this thing, people weren't thinking about decorated masks. They were just thinking about a mask. And I remember a client of mine, he had converted his embroidery machine into a mask making machine. And that was the first mask that I had were sewn on his embroidery machine. But then they kind of became this whole logo wear thing. And then we started to see the sublimation thing come in as the sublimation blanks came in. So we realized early on that masks were going to become a creative medium. And if you think about it, and is kind of odd as it is, A mask is literally one of the perfect things to decorate. It's linear. It's got a fairly simple shape. It's got a really nice, well-defined image area. And so we said, hey, as a medium for design, mask is kind of perfect. And so we made the executive decision at InkSoft and Digital Art Solutions that we wanted to be the first company in the industry to come out with a kit for making masks. And so the first product of its type was our mask builder product. What you're seeing, the online catalog here that clients use as a collaboration tool. And so we created a whole series of graphics that will incorporate with Adobe Illustrator and CorelDRAW that allowed our clients to do these full bleed masks. And underneath this mask is this whole rectangle. And so the rectangle can be modified, all the colors, all the parts and pieces of the mask could be repositioned. And what we learned is that clients were going to use these outside the scope of just doing masks. They were going to use these backgrounds for other things too, for doing other decorated products, not just masks. So we wanted to give it some continuity. So when we did the second one, and I'll just kind of jump on that. The second one, Mask Builder 2, we just identified those other areas outside of schools, teams, and sports where people were wearing masks. But in order to give that product a little bit more longevity, we also featured all of the layouts as just backgrounds so that once we have the pandemic behind us, people would still be able to use the content. And so it was all new territory. We've learned a tremendous amount about decorating masks. Mask Builder 1 and 2 have become kind of a phenomenon. We've done tons of training, and we've been really fortunate to get some great speakers that are experts in the production side of masks, like David Gross from Condi Systems, to come in and teach people the physical part of it. And so we've kind of handled the graphic side, and then we've partnered with other suppliers to do the physical side. So I'm going to stop my screen share there and pass it back to you.
Well, Craig, maybe a follow-up question about, sort of the looking at design and face masks, but do you find, your customers are, sort of valuing like different, if it's just a basic logo placement, are they monetizing and presenting, sort of premium decoration options that have more sort of visual, interest and presenting options to clients? I mean, what's your take on?
Well, the corporate world, what you're going to see in the corporate world, and Scott can probably attest to this too, is you're seeing a lot more of this simple monochromatic type designs with a simple corporate logo on them, right? Or maybe they'll use a striping pattern or a simple graphic element. But in the sports side of things, it is the Wild West. People are ultra creative in terms of what they're doing with the masks, and there are a lot more elaborate designs with patterns, colorful prints, big prints,
Right.
verbiage, clearly visible verbiage has been a part of that. I think the one market that kind of surprised me on the mass, two markets that kind of tripped me up on the mass thing was family reunions. Massive family reunions are a big deal. And everyone that was getting together over the summer, they're all doing masks for their family reunions, and we'll be doing masks for family reunions this year, and weddings. And so what they would do as a wedding gift, they would do custom masks for the bridal party. Bride will have her own mask, groom will have his own mask. The bridal party will have a themed mask, and then the guests would make masks available to the guests. And I guess it was this kind of like, hey, you're going to be wearing a mask at our wedding, so we're going to give you one. Kind of a
No
thing.
excuses.
Yeah. So, that's you get the right numbers on a family reunion or a wedding, you might hit 200 or 300 pieces. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's great. Great insights. Well, Zach, I'll put you on the spot here. What curveballs or questions can you present to Craig and Scott?
I mean, one of the things that I'm kind of curious about from you guys is like, as we kind of, obviously the pandemic isn't going anywhere anytime soon, but nonetheless, like we are starting to see vaccinations increase. We are starting to see just like, potentially by the end of, maybe by the summertime, maybe by the end of even 2021, that face masks might not be there, all the way. So I have kind of two questions. One is, how would someone capitalize on it right now, knowing that people are out there who kind of believe that maybe this isn't the best thing to focus on? And then also, what's kind of the long tail sales opportunity around custom face masks, knowing that they might not be as important leading into the summer and especially into the fall of 2021?
I could answer that. It's in our product line now, and we'll continue to keep selling it because I think, even next year after the vaccinations are done, I believe that next year during the flu season, everyone is weirded out by this. I get it. I had COVID. It was a weird deal because everyone was like looking at me like I had leprosy or something. And so I watched personally how weirded out people were by it. And like I said, I think that they're going to continue to be relevant. They're going to continue to stay on our line. I don't think we're going to sell $1 million of them again. But when you start seeing the big box stores, like, I mean, Costco has a whole section of hand sanitizer and mask over there now. Target, as I said before, they're still carrying it. And, that's an indicator that I think people are still going to keep, using it after the pandemic. And I'm guessing next year during flu season, I always wondered, just like I was talking to one of my colleagues the other day, like I always used to watch the people in China or over, in Asia that would wear masks all the time, and, because of the pollution. And I'm hoping that, the vaccinations work, and politically, whatever you believe in masks, because we had to deal with that as well. I do wear masks because you do have to wear them when you go into places right now. And I think, like I said, I think long term, I believe that people are still going to buy them.
Yeah, I would agree with Scott on that. And I would add something else, which masks have become a uniform, correct? So in corporate America, we went to our little local little takeout Mexican place the other night, and all the employees had wear masks with their corporate logo on them. Their employees are not being permitted to wear just any old mask. And one of the things that it's occurred to me is the corporations that are buying masks as a uniform are buying a better quality mask. They want something that's going to be wash durable, something that's going to have 2 layers of cotton plus a polyester layer. They want adjustable ear toggles. They want a mask that maybe has nose darts, a little seam in the nose and the chin, so it fits a wider range of faces. So one of the things that you can do as you sell masks is really focus on the quality and the fit of the mask. Mask is not a mask. There are different levels of quality of mask. I think focusing more on the upper end with the better face seal masks that you're seeing in the marketplace is a really good move. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what it's going to be like. I have my best friend works for Moderna, so I have a pretty good idea what his thoughts are in terms of masks. But we're going to be wearing masks for the next year, probably longer. And as the vaccinations start to hit in, it's a moving target, right? We'll see a difference in habits and CDC recommendations. But I think for a client to say, hey, listen, masks are going away, I'm not going to get into it right now, is pretty foolish, because this is one of the mantras that I've kind of preached, so to speak, to my clients. I said, listen, regardless of how you personally feel about a mask, it was kind of a gift that was given to us in the apparel decorations industry, that a product that was created that can help people to protect themselves from a deadly virus, but also sustain your business during these unprecedented times. And I had a really funny story. I had a client, and he sold about $100,000 worth of masks. And he said, hey, we stayed open. We were an essential business. I didn't have to lay anybody off in my business. He says, my wife came into work one day and she was just like, I'm done with masks. I'm sick of them. I don't want to wear them anymore. I don't want to deal with them. I don't want to print them anymore. And he said, oh, okay, honey, which employee do you want to lay off first? And I was like, that was like a stark, I was like, wow. I mean, we laughed about it, but it was like, what he was saying is that how it had sustained their business. And he says, we're going to continue doing masks. It's just kind of like what Scott was saying. It's just a part of the product line now. And it is not too late to get involved. People aren't going to know you offer them unless you let people know that you offer them. And I think social media is a really big part of that. I mean, I would throw a question back to Jen. Jen, you and I are going to teach a class on social media in the end of February. And I think masks will be a part of that class, because it is literally the perfect mechanism to promote masks using your Facebook, and I think more specifically Instagram.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, masks are essential. Like, you have to have a mask to go into a lot of businesses. So I think a lot of people are past the point of wanting to wear those just like throwaway masks. And they're like, if I have to wear a mask, I may as well like it. It may as well match my outfit. Like, I have probably 10 different masks, and maybe it's because I'm a girl and I like to kind of match my outfits, but I do like to have a specific mask because I have to wear it.
And
Yep.
even to that point, you think about like personal expression, right? Think of, when you're out in public, survey, it's kind of a fun game, but survey the political themed messages or the affinity with a favorite band or a favorite team or organization. But this is a real opportunity for consumers and citizens to showcase their affinity for all the things that again a t-shirt is a normal vehicle for. So I think that those create some new sales opportunities, right? To see and survey, what folks are using to represent, their interests and their belief systems, right? So think every church organization, if they expect to have some level of church services, they need to supply face coverings and make those available to their audience. So, I mean, it just seems like the opportunities abound. They're absolutely endless and sort of everywhere. And I think this leads to an interesting question. And I heard a lot of chatter again on the onset of COVID, as soon as face masks were a thing, and you couldn't really argue that it wasn't a thing. I know there were some decorators that took a position that face masks might be unethical. To sell or monetize them might be something that goes against their belief systems. Or so, Scott and Craig, I mean, from your experience, how would you console maybe a decorator that's been sitting on the sidelines and not taking advantage of the opportunity, to engage with face masks? Is there any advice or any sort of perspective on the ethics of face masks?
Craig, you want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Okay. Jen, first of all, I have like 25 masks, so don't feel bad. Okay.
I feel better now.
You know what, JP, that was like my COVID thing when I got COVID. I actually felt a little weird when this first started, but I started getting, and I saved all the emails, just especially from the assisted living facilities that people, I called a state senator that helped me get as an essential business. And she called one of the ladies, and the lady actually started crying because she couldn't get masks to her employees. And right after I heard that story, I was like, wow, how interesting is it that, our industry is one of the industries that is going to come step forward and get masks for people so we can go to school and go to sporting events and do the things that we all do.
Exactly.
So I did deal with that a little bit, but I also have 50 emails from customers saying like you're a hero and thank you. And I can't believe you pivoted so quick. So it is a good question because I did feel that way. And, but like I said, we went out there and we did it. And I can honestly say that to Craig's story about his friend, I mean, we didn't have to, close down. We didn't have to lay off people. And if we didn't go do those masks, to his point, we would have definitely had to furlough people and definitely, knock down our payroll because we're not doing events right now, and schools aren't going, and there's no football games going. And that's a lot of what our business is. So to answer that question, I think it's awesome that, our industry is one of the industries that stepped in and stepped up and started supplying that stuff.
That's a good point.
I think I would share, I don't like wearing masks. I don't find them to be comfortable. I'd prefer not to wear a mask. I've got 30 masks. If I'm going to go to an area that's high exposure, I'm going to wear a KN95 and I'm going to wear a cloth mask to accessorize over the top of it. That's my favorite kind of route to do. Like medical appointments, stuff like that. But the thing is that I think there's a philanthropic aspect to this. And I had a customer point this out to me, and I will not name the state, but he told me, I live in a state where it's pretty mask adverse and people just really don't want to wear masks. There's a high percentage of the people in our population. He says, but when they go to a high school football game, they all wear a mask, and every one of those masks has the logo of a team on it. And people feel better about wearing a mask when they're helping to promote a cause, a team, something that's community, right? So I feel like just the opposite. I feel like there's a philanthropic aspect to this, but also I feel like there's this has been a saving grace for so many of my customers. I wish you guys could, I'm in the trenches every day talking to clients, and I'll hear clients say, listen, if it wasn't for mask sales, we would have had to close our doors. We would have had to furlough and lay off employees, and masks are what's sustained them. I think it's morphed to Scott's point. I think it's morphed to a certain degree that it has become more like a staple, and it's a temporary staple. We're not gonna be wearing masks, hopefully not forever, but it's just a staple part of your business. If you're not offering them, guess what? They're buying them from somebody else. and they should be buying them for you. And always have been of the opinion, you want to keep people in your, you want to keep them within your sphere. You don't want to give them any excuses to go out and buy from others. And Scott, I've known you for a long time, and I know how you operate your business. You're going to find a way to keep your customers under your roof, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And I wanted to tell one other story that I did for my friend, because this is a good sales pitch for InkSoft stores or people that have InkSoft. It actually, Craig, gives you the opportunity to call your customers right now, because right now to get meetings with anyone is very hard because everyone's working from home usually. So one of my customers, he's a friend of mine. I sent him an email. I said, hey, how about we set up an InkSoft store, have all your people get on, place their orders. I'll send you a bill and we'll mail them out. I've never done that stuff before. So some of the things that masks have opened up companies like mine to do are, marketing and reconnecting with your customers that are, a lot of them are closed right now. So it's been a good add-on for our company.
Yeah, and that actually brings up another point. We just published a blog post today giving some sales tips and insights into a big sales opportunity that's just around the corner next month, which is the National Employee Appreciation Day. So I imagine now is the time to engage with your customers, especially corporate clients, and put in front of them some ideas that would help them to maybe put a merch kit together to celebrate team members. And of course, morale and the sense of connectedness is a big theme. It certainly was last year, and certainly will continue to be a theme this year. Every company is concerned about their team members working remote, right? And so, it could be these branded products that help unify and bring people together now, which is pretty critical. So I think that's another way to engage with clients, Scott, is to give them some more context, right, into how these products can make an impact and help. So that's a plug for our new blog post. Everybody ought to go read it, inksoft.com, and click on resources. Well, Zach, Jen, do you guys have any other curveballs or questions that you think our audience wants to know about face masks? I feel like we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, I feel like, you guys answered some. I feel like I learned a lot. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time to really go in depth on that.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing. If anyone's interested in getting involved in the whole custom face mask, one of the good resources that we have, if you just go to the Digital Art Solutions website, we have a whole section in our Graphics Academy archive just on face mask sales, design, and production. And we have various industry experts that have participated in that. I want to say there's 6 or 7 hours worth of content just on that alone. So if you want to understand the physical processes and the sales processes, how to do a sampling program, how to set it up in an InkSoft store, I would certainly recommend going to the Graphics Academy. Just Digital Art Solutions, click on Graphics Academy. There's the archive. Scroll down, look at the mask builder section, and you've instantly plugged into education.
And we'll link all that stuff in the follow-up that will correspond to this webinar. Make sure everybody has access to all these important links. Well, actually, I do have one curveball I want to sneak in here, and I think this is relevant. So, of course, face masks, according to ASI, their research was the #1 search term in 2020. And the second most searched term was what? Let's see if anybody read the research or has an inkling of what that might have been. What product is relevant to and related to face masks and what's going on right now? Craig, Scott, anybody?
I'm stumped.
Craig or Scott, you should know this because you're engaged in selling it.
Oh, hand sanitizer.
Hand sanitizer.
Right.
So, Scott, do me a favor. I know this was a sudden thing for your business, but it seems like it corresponds to face masks. Can you talk about sort of the bulk sanitizing stations and how you're, integrating, sanitizer into your product mix?
So every desk has one of these, right? Sitting on them now. We've been selling hand sanitizer for 26 years, and we've been selling it in the 1 and 2 ounce bottles, and people hand them out as a promotional product. Now when this all started, we started getting the calls. Now, rather than selling 1 and 2 ounce bottles that go on your wife's purse or your keychain or sit in your car, we had people wanting it by the gallon. So we also started selling a ton of hand sanitizer. We partner up with a couple companies, and we were able to get it in really quick. The big problem, and there's videos out there now of the bad stuff and the stuff that smells like tequila and so on and so forth. So we got some products in that were good for your hands and hands. I used hand sanitizer before. I wasn't a germaphobe, but if I, didn't want to get sick during the flu season, I'd put hand sanitizer on. So yeah, we also have sold quite a lot of hand sanitizer and hand sanitizer dispensers and right now I never thought I'd be in the vending business, but we have some banks here in town that call us every week and say, hey, we need 8 gallons or we need 5 gallons. So to a lot of this, to the point of what we're talking about here, some of these things that we're doing right now, like I said, I've been selling hand sanitizer for 25 years. So it's not like I haven't sold it before. And like I said, the face mask deal, we're in the imprintable business and we print masks and people will buy a mask if it has a logo on it. I mean, I think we've sold 90% of what we sold. People wanted their logos on it. And so, like I said, we've had to pivot, and hand sanitizer and masks have become a big part of our business now.
And Scott, I think when we were speaking about this point, you mentioned that like every high school gym and every cafeteria and every public place is going to have a large, it's going to be an expectation. Consumers will just expect there'll be hand sanitizing stations where there's not restrooms, right? So, selling hand sanitizer that's branded is one thing, but I'm really curious about these dispensing stations. Can you give a bit more insight into, the context of?
Yeah. So we have 2 or 3 vendors that are making dispenser stands that can put custom logos on the dispensers, and they're nice. They're not the pull ones. They're the ones that are motion activated, and you could put your logo on it. So once again, I'm going out and not just going in and selling I literally have a picture, and I'll share it with you if you ever want to use it on anything. I went into, I'm not going to tell you, but it was a national bank, a big bank, one of the big boys. And they actually had a bottle like this duct taped to their dispenser on the front. And I was like, I took a picture of it, sent it to the marketing people who I never even knew. And I said, are you kidding me? And the lady was so embarrassed. She was like, when can you be down here? So, the opportunities that some of these things are doing for our industry, like I said, I don't feel bad about it, because that lady had a need. Like, there was a duct tape hand thing or a duct tape bottle to the front of the dispenser. It was crazy. And the next day I had an order for $8,000 worth of hand sanitizer. So you got to figure out where your pockets are. We've all been through downturns in our business before. The subprime lending thing was a weird deal. 2002, we went through a little deal, but this deal they're going to be talking about for the next 300 years. And companies that are being aggressive and trying to go out and make it in a weird time are the ones that are going to come out ahead when this thing opens up, which I'm looking forward to this opening up. I like Craig. I don't like wearing them. I was at the gym last night, and I'm the guy that puts it so I could have my nose, and I had people give me dirty looks. So I'm done with masks, but if I got to wear it to work out, I'm going to wear it to work out.
Wow. What's interesting is, let's say we all get vaccinated, and at what point can you go into a public place without a face mask? Like, how do you identify I have antibodies or I've been vaccinated? I don't need to wear a face mask. Maybe this will create a new print opportunity, right?
Yeah.
A lanyard with a QR code that signifies you are in fact vaccinated. So maybe we ought to speculate
it's a button.
on
It's a button.
A button.
And I don't know, maybe keep this one to myself, but a vaccinated logo. You get the little vaccinated ball cap with your V for vaccination logo, and a whole accessory deal. I saw one of our friends, she got vaccinated. They gave her a button, says I'm vaccinated. And I thought that was kind of cool.
I'm licensed right now, Craig. I'm going to license it right now.
Yeah.
I know, that's why I didn't want to say it with you around. I know you'd be like, bam, let's do this.
Do it.
Yeah.
But to your point, JP, about that, I think it's interesting when you ask, like, when is it going to be okay to not wear a mask? I think even when people are vaccinated and we can start going to big events again, out of comfort, I think a lot of people will still want to wear a mask. Like, even though we're all sick of it, if you're all of a sudden in a crowded space, which a lot of us haven't been in a year, I think it'll still be comfort that people will just want to have the mask.
Yeah,
And if you're compromised or, certain populations, again, I think somebody mentioned in Asia, right? It's just been a common, if you're feeling under the weather, it's your responsibility, if you're going to go out in public, to wear a mask, right? So I do think culturally it's going to become a thing that will be omnipresent. I don't think we're ever going to entirely move away from face coverings. So.
And also, just to kind of like as a callback to what you were saying earlier about that self-expression, I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunities at concert, especially like at concerts, at music festivals, or like tech, big tech festivals like South by Southwest, where even though you might be outside or anything like that, there's a really cool opportunity to use it almost literally as a marketing play. If you are, if you're a new company or you're a new product, or, you're trying to you market your band or anything like that, what an opportunity to put it out there as a moment of self-expression, to be a part of your outfit, as a part of whatever you're doing. And so even if it's both, even if it's not necessarily for health purposes, it could also just be purely for self-expression with the benefit of, looking after your health.
I think that's a really good point, Zach, because I think from some of the reading that I've been doing, as events and things start, we're involved in the trade show world, right? And so as events start opening up, concert venues, things of that nature, I think one of the caveats that you're going to see in some of these public gatherings is a requirement to wear a mask. So we'll say, hey, you guys can, like you're seeing this right now, the NFL, we're going to watch a Super Bowl on Sunday, and there's going to be 22,000 people in that stadium. And every one of those people in that stadium or around the stadium, Tampa's got a citywide mask mandate, is going to be wearing a mask. But you know what they're going to be wearing? They're going to be wearing masks that say Kansas City Chiefs and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And people that are agnostic fans of either team are going to have their Green Bay Packers, Chicago Bears masks on. So, the concept there is that form of self-expression is also an admission ticket to an event. And I think that's not likely to change anytime soon. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm really looking forward to seeing live music again. So for sure.
Absolutely. Well, let's do this before we conclude. I want to make sure everybody has access to the marketing kit that corresponds to this webinar. So if you head over to inksoft.com and if you click resources, there you can navigate and access all of the marketing kits that we have produced here at InkSoft. And they span every subject matter you can imagine. So how to promote, order fulfillment programs and fundraising programs and spiritware programs. Of course, the newest one is how to sell custom face masks. So if you haven't already read this particular marketing kit, there's a lot of insights that give, examples of how other organizations like sort of retail are doing sort of mass subscription programs. So consumers can get cool branded face masks on a monthly basis, because again, a face covering is something that dirties and you need to launder it and have a whole array of them, right? So definitely go back and filter through all the marketing kits are on offer. I would encourage you to reread the one dedicated to face masks. I think there's a tremendous amount of additional insights that I think will support the things that Scott and Craig illuminated today. So with that said, I'm not seeing any questions, and I think we covered so much subject matter and went into enough detail to satisfy the audience today. So I want to give a quick thank you for my colleagues joining me, and Craig and Scott for making yourselves available and sharing your knowledge with us. We really appreciate it. All right, everybody. Well, we will send a follow-up email with a link to this video and also some links that Craig had called out where you can get access to more training materials and resources from the Digital Art Solutions side. And again, thank you for everybody taking the time to join us for today's webinar. We appreciate it. Have a good one, everybody. Until the next one. Take care, all. Thank you.
Thank you.